it's not always that you get two big news in the same day from USCIS in the realm of immigration. But today is that day. Well, I can safely say USCIS is every immigrant's Valentine, and probably that's why we've gotten some sort of a Valentine's Day gift. What is that gift? We will talk about, but we will also be discussing the March Visa Bulletin that was released this morning and the gift. Well, the gift is CSPA. What's happened with the CSPA, the Child Service Protection Act? We'll delve into all of that. My name is Neha Mahajan. I am the American Alien, and with me is Anirban Das, the president of Skilled Immigrants in America, or SIA. And you are watching the American Alien podcast. So, Anirban, first of all, welcome. And
thank you for having me.
yeah, I mean, we're doing this after such a long time. Anirban founded Skilled Immigrants in America. I've become the co-founder, the VP at Skilled Immigrants in America. And we have been really pushing for immigration reforms all this while. You guys have known us. The big news is March Visa Bulletin is out. Well, that's not the big news. The big news is there is no movement, right? Or there's barely any movement for those born in India. So, Anirban, I want your expertise.
So I think it's very frustrating that we see no movements, right? It's been a few months that we haven't seen any movements at all. Two things that are at play here. First is obviously the first year of the COVID, when there were so many extra green cards that were there, USCIS wasted those green cards, right? Some 80,000 green cards were wasted.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no excuse for it, but they did it. We know a lawsuit was filed to recover those green cards.
Right.
USCIS went to court and said, well, we tried, but we couldn't do it. And
Right.
the court sort of sided with them. That was very unfortunate. So I think what happened last year was USCIS sort of had this PR pressure, right? That they had to process green cards,
Right.
at least minimize the wastage and all that. So there were all these people who filed green cards around the October 2020 time, right? And their applications were pending somewhere. We know the EB3 dates moved forward. People downgraded, and the EB2 became empty because everybody downgraded to EB3.
Right.
EB2 dates moved forward, and then people tried to upgrade back to EB2. So it was a commotion, right? We know what it is. It was a mess. People were trying to basically, take advantage of the final action date to get their green cards. USCIS tried their best, I want to say, to give as many green cards as possible. What ended up happening is many from 2013, 2014 who had just filed green cards managed to get green cards before even the people who had applied with, in October 2020 with priority dates 2011, 2012. Now, as immigrants, we want to say, okay, as long as people are getting green cards, as long as they're not getting wasted, it's good, right? So, but this created this problem that now we have absolutely no idea how many are waiting in 2011, 2012, 2013, because it's no longer a first in, first out process anymore.
Absolutely. Right? So, and there's no transparency from USCIS at all.
Exactly.
I mean, even the numbers that came in 2018, which kind of set the tone for how many actually are in backlog, was released by all the pressure, because of all the pressure that we put in back in 2018. And that's where the whole figure of 1 million in backlog, 1.2 million in backlog actually came from. So, continue.
And USCIS actually used to do a good thing before. They used to actually release a quarterly report of pending 485 inventory. Okay, so they used that was actually a very, very good set of data which we used to basically calculate how the dates would move, how many are remaining in backlog, and this would have been a very, very good time to actually have something like that, where they basically say by country, by year, by month, and by chargeability, like EB2, EB1, EB3, how many are waiting exactly with 485 pending. At least if you have that data, okay, you have these many numbers waiting in 2012, you have these many numbers.
When did this stop?
They stopped in 2018, basically, and they haven't started it yet. So the accountability is kind of getting lower and lower. Okay, there's very little transparency. You literally have no idea how many are waiting. Every time USCIS releases the Visa Bulletin, the explanation that comes from them is, oh, there's an increase in new applications for people whose priority dates are before the cutoff dates.
Right.
So if you consider India, which is not moving at all,
Right.
they have a cutoff date of like what, 2012 now, right?
Yeah.
So there would be some people who I can say are probably filing a new application. They missed the boat probably several times where,
Yes.
you know, they,
But there's so many factors to it.
yeah,
Sometimes
there's
you
probably
change
so many factors.
jobs, perms have been taking forever.
Yeah,
There's so many
yeah,
factors to
yeah,
it.
no doubt about that. But
Yeah.
you have to consider that number is pretty minuscule at this point.
Right.
So for dates to not move, it's primarily because USCIS is trying to come up with go back to the FIFO thing again. They're trying
Right.
to issue green cards as in the first in first out process.
Right.
So they already issued many green cards with PDs of 2013, 2014, but
Right.
many with 2011, 2012 dates were still pending.
Right.
So now they're trying to issue those, and while they're issuing those, they are pretty much eating up the monthly quota.
Right.
That's why the dates are not moving. The other
Right.
thing is, now people will say, well, we have these extra green cards, right? Because, you know, the family based are not getting processed,
Right.
so we have some extra green cards this year too. The thing is, the extra green cards are not being utilized up till now. It will only be utilized towards the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. Why is that? Okay, that's because, you know, it's probably said in the INA, it says that you cannot use more than 27% of the green cards per quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of limits USCIS into what they can do when it
Right.
comes to the additional green cards. So right now, the quota is basically 7% of the yearly quota. So I'm guessing by the middle of third quarter, that's when you will probably see dates move,
October.
which is like around June, July.
Oh, June, July. Sorry, I just
Yeah, because
the
September
year's
is the end.
flying.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
towards the
September
end.
is September is the end of the fiscal
Right,
year.
and
So
that's what I thought in my head because October has been such a significant month
yeah,
in the last few years that
yeah.
it automatically,
Because October is when the happy news comes in because you get fresh new
I
set of green cards and
yes. So
dates
I
start
hope
moving.
that's what happens in October 2023
Of
also.
course.
All right. So enough of talking about the Visa Bulletin. I want you to talk about the CSPA. So just a backgrounder, the Child Service Protection Act up until now was only USCIS was only considering the final action date and not the final or not the filing date. But they have announced today that they will consider filing date instead of final action date. What does this mean, Anirban?
I think this is a significant good news. I know some people will try to like minimize it and say, well, you know, the dates are not that different now, which is true currently. I admit, but we know eventually the filing dates are going to move forward. It has to, because that's the whole idea of having the filing date. So a quick like a background of this is like the reason why we have the filing dates and the final action dates was started in 2015, right? Earlier we just had one date. If your priority date is before that one date, you file adjustment of status, and you basically your child's age is locked, right?
Yeah.
Which is the big advantage.
Right.
So what happened from 2015 is they started with these two different dates, right? So that they want to be more efficient and they can get a good idea of, you know, the inventory that they have, because with filing dates they can allow people to file green cards, but they're not processing the green cards, only the ones whose PDs are
Right.
before the final action dates, they get the green card. So they get an idea of, so there's this gap, they get an idea how many are waiting in line, they minimize wastage, all that stuff.
Right.
So, which was very strange that when CSPA came out, they were like, oh, we are still going to honor the final action date. And it really didn't make sense. It's like, first of all, it where in the INA is it coded that you have to do the final action date, because INA does not even have a final action date to file. So I remember when USCIS was put out this rule thing, right, about they were asking for comments.
Yes, on what can they do to make
what can they do to
processes
streamline the
better.
immigration process.
Exactly.
I remember we as SIA, we
Yes.
submitted a comment where we said,
wasn't it last year? Yeah, it was last
yeah.
year.
Yeah. So why don't you accept the filing dates instead of the final action dates? Because if you accept the filing dates, those dates are ahead. And once people who file their green cards with children who are age 4s, they get to use the filing dates as an adjustment of status. The child's age is locked. That is that is very, very significant when it comes to somebody whose child is, about to age out. It
I
is,
know of many such cases in Urban. There's one person who's got their EAD, could not get the green card, obviously because the dates
yeah,
retrogressed.
yeah,
The child just turned 19 and they have no idea in the world when are the dates gonna move. Obviously, no one knows it,
no,
right? So, and the child wasn't protected until now, right? Because it did not, the final action dates have retrogressed, right? So, well, good news for them now, I guess. Filing dates
right,
are being honored. So I guess the child will now be protected.
right. I mean, that is very significant, especially when the dates start moving forward again, and there will probably be a substantial gap between the filing date and the final
Yeah.
action date, at least a year or a year and a half.
Yeah.
Even that time period is very, very significant for anybody.
Right.
So this is baby steps, improvements, but it really didn't make sense for USCIS to just say, okay, we're going to honor final action date,
Right.
increase the age, but not the filing age. I'm glad this was done,
Right.
and this is pretty significant moving forward, especially for Indian immigrants, because because of the huge
I feel
backlog, the consumer.
USCIS is finally listening to our pleas. That's what I feel. Even if it's baby steps, even it's like little minuscule changes, but still the changes are coming in, which is good, I guess.
Which is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I mean some things which when the changes come, you would be like, why wasn't it there in the first place, right?
Right.
That's usually you think about it, but at least they're thinking about it. They're at least thinking logically and saying, okay,
Right.
let's do this. Another quick thing that I think came out today was the 60-day layoff period thing, right? Where
Oh yeah. No, it's been around for a couple of days now.
right.
Yeah. So
So
I just
so
can't wrap my head around it.
right. So I think one of the idea was like, okay, because there's been so many tech layoffs right now,
Yeah.
there is the 60-day grace period that USCIS provides right now, which by the way was not there before. We
Yes.
got it in 2015
Yes.
with the I-140 EAD rule, which didn't work out as we wanted.
Right.
It was very, very disappointing to say the least.
Right.
But that was one of the good things that came out of that rule was the 60-day grace period rule, because earlier if you were losing your job, the day you're losing your job, you
Yes.
basically lose your status. That was basically what it is. There was no unwritten rule. I think you could file like an H-1B transfer within like 2 weeks
Right.
or something, and USCIS would probably approve it. It
Yeah.
was like an unwritten rule, but technically you were out of status the day you lose your job. So this
Yeah.
60-day grace period is huge. I know there have been attempts to say, hey, why don't we increase it, stuff like that. There's another problem. The problem is because this was done by a proposed rulemaking,
Yes.
right? So if it's done by proposed rulemaking, that's how it's been coded in. So there are only two ways this can be changed. You have another proposed rule which changes that,
Yeah.
or you have Congress to pass a
Right.
bill, and
Which is, we
good
know
luck
it
with that.
doesn't
So
happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I think 60 days is still better than zero. So I'm
And also
obviously
60
pleased
days
for
is tied
anybody.
to a person's I-94. So people are in, unfortunate situations where I-94 is expiring in say 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then the 60 days doesn't really count.
Doesn't really count.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part. But
Yeah.
at least it's better than having zero at all, especially with the layoffs coming on. So I think
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
small changes that are coming, which is good. So we'll
Yeah.
see what we are expecting USCIS to at least process the cases properly, just so that there's no
Yes.
wastage.
Please.
That's one of the big things. And I think one of the big victories was where I would really like to thank I think the Banias Law, who won the lawsuit
Yes.
about the H-1B and the H-4 and the H-4EAD being processed together. I mean, again, that's
It's
another
good
thing.
news, Anirban, but I don't know. I haven't seen any of this put into action. I don't know anybody who's actually
Right.
benefited from it right now.
I,
So I
I,
think
I
there is a lag in
right.
when
There's always a lag. So
there's a
I
lag.
think what happened is the court has basically ordered
Yes.
it. So I think another memo has to come out from
Yeah.
USCIS saying, okay, this is how we're going to do it, which is unfortunate because
It
that's how
was
they used to.
supposed to start
Yeah.
on January 25. Today is February 14. This cannot
This
be happening.
yeah. This is something that they used to do before anyway, and then they
Yeah.
switched it up, and then it doesn't make sense. You
Yes.
have 3 applications in the same package.
Yep.
Open it up, process it together, be done with it, and just move on.
Everybody's happy. The officers are happy. The beneficiaries are happy. They don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
It's like you have to file a lawsuit to get them to work
Yes.
efficiently. It's
Yes.
very
I want to
frustrating.
ask you some questions around CSPA, really.
Mhm.
The information that's come in today, does it tell you when this kicks in? For example, for kids who've already aged out, do you know if there's any information about it?
That's what I was reading, and I'm
Yeah.
not very sure about this. Like, does this take into account people who have already filed in October of 2020 and
Or
people who
even
have already,
before, like
or
kids who
even
aged out maybe 3 years ago. Does it kick in from there? Like, when does it start? It doesn't say a start
exactly?
date.
So that's a good point. So I think that's something that needs to be clarified by
Clarified, yeah.
USCIS, because it really doesn't tell us that. I certainly hope it's not that, okay, we're going to do it from this day,
Yeah.
because I know there are many who filed, adjustment of status in October of 2020, right? Even last year, many people managed to file. So if they could benefit from it, that would be, or if they say, okay, for all the pending applications, we're doing it like that, maybe. I think it's just easiest if they say, okay, whatever the pending
Yeah.
applications are, because people have managed to file applications based on filing dates, right?
Right.
So we have, but I don't know how much they can bring it back, like somebody who's aged out who can still continue. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But I think with the pending applications, they can certainly do that. So
All
I'm
right.
hoping that's the case. So that
Well,
I'm
let's
sure.
keep our fingers and toes crossed, because with the
Definitely.
USCIS, every bit of everything works. Advocacy works, calling congressional offices works, going to the Hill works, and even prayers work. Do
No,
whatever works for you.
right. I think people should not give up.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand it's very frustrating because when it comes to the federal government, when it comes to the government in general, things move slowly, but things do get done, and it is here. It is they're going to listen to you. So do not give up on that. Always keep keep at it. I just want to say that there's always somebody who's listening to you. So
I agree with you. I agree with. There are nice people in USCIS. I mean, there are.
right, yeah,
Right. So, as a ending note, I just want to mention that there's an email ID that you can send your questions to, theamericanalien1@gmail.com. I'll put it out in the description box also, theamericanalien1@gmail.com. Send us your questions. And, I have attorney on Ishan Anand of Tugel LP on the show. He'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And if you want an attorney to look at your case or something, send me the information and we'll be able to help you out with that. And Anirban, thank you so much. I think
sure.
we should do this more often. People will benefit from the information that you have,
Sure.
the knowledge base
I
that you
mean,
have.
USS keeps giving out good news. We'll be happy to do it always. So
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
thank you for joining us. And you guys have a great day ahead, and stay safe.